Good for you. That's what you wanted? shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim va'aretz. Al yitein lamod raglecha. Al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan. Shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilcha. Al yad yeminecha. Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilcha. Al yad yeminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka. Ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora. Yishmor enafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzecha uvoecha. Me'ata ve'ad olam. Adonai yishmor tzecha uvoecha. Me'ata ve'ad olam. Al mekoma tavo v'shalom. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much. And for people who are tuned into the broadcast who can't be here with us at the Zedek Cemetery, thank you for tuning in as well. Our custom is to begin with the chanting and now recitation of a psalm. We use Psalm 121, which is known in Hebrew as Shir Ma'alot, a song for ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. You see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, your guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming, now and forever. Al mikoma tavo v'shalom. May our beloved go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim paulo kichol racham mishpat el emunah ve'inav el tzadik v'yasharhu tzadik atah Adonai la'amidu l'achayot asher b'yadcha b'gadon kol ruchot chalil lecha zichronenu limchot v'yihiyu nainecha v'rachamim alinu fekuchot ki lecha Adon harachamim ve'aslichot. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God gives, God takes, blessed be the name of God. Ve'hu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchid, ve'hir ba'al hashiva po v'lo yirkoch hamato ve'yashov, he'afar al haaretz shehaya, ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Shirley's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and may God send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you again, everyone, for being here, and thank you to the family for the honor of getting to preside over this ceremony as we gather together as a community, with family and with friends, to honor Shirley Morry. Though people who are closest to her never called her Shirley, they called her Tzipi, which came from her Jewish name, Tzipa bat Shmuel HaKohen Bacherna, the daughter of Sally and Sam Slotnikov, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory. We are here today to show her the ultimate form of Jewish respect, which is to accompany her to her final resting place, and we are here to say goodbye, to celebrate her life, and to say goodbye. Shirley passed away Tuesday, the 16th day in the Hebrew month of Av, at the age of 87. She is survived by her family, her husband Julius, her children, Howard and Hope, Jeff and Sarah, Marla and Ibrahim, Karen and Mark, her grandchildren, Josh and Sam, Samantha and Steve, Ben, Matthew, and Joel, and by her sister Helen. She was predeceased by her parents, Sam and Sally, of blessed memory, Zichronam Livracha. The family has prepared eulogies. We'll hear from the grandchildren. We'll hear from the children. Howard has something prepared. It's an honor, like I said, to be here and to get to give an introduction to the hesped, the eulogy portion of the funeral, which honors a woman who was modest and humble, who had a quiet strength about her, a calm, steadying force. Unlike myself and so many people in my particular family, a woman who did not have a huge range of emotions, who never got too high and never got too low. And when sitting with her family, I found it so telling and so fascinating that each of her kids could recall the 2 or 3 times she really lost it on them, and how in those occasions they really probably deserved it, but that's what it took to move her to that kind of extreme. A calm, steadying force. The glue of their family. A true matriarch. And Howard will speak about this in his eulogy. At Jewish funerals, we always quote Job, who wasn't even Jewish, but he's the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition in the Bible, who always was a calm and steadying force himself, and in spite of all of his tragedy, said what we say, God gives, God takes, blessed be the name of God. There's also a line in Job that talks about how you can get silver from the earth and iron and copper and gold, but you can't mine for wisdom. A person of wisdom is almost impossible to replace. It was also very telling And not surprising at all that this matriarch, this glue, this calm, steadying force in the Morry family, Shirley, Sippy, also gave great advice, was always there with wisdom and perspective. Together, she and her husband Julius raised a family, 4 kids in 10 years, in their Garden City home on Hill House since 1972, which actually started in the home they built on Mellish and McCurdy before that, which was a very cool story about a young couple in the late 50s getting married and building their first home. Together they traveled, they went across Europe, visited Israel multiple times, cruises, visits to Palm Springs. They spent lots of time at the cottage at Falcon, the cottage at Winnipeg Beach. She was truly happy, Shirley was, content with her life. Her family talked about her always being present, always being around, being there for everything they needed. And it seemed to me that as they talked and I heard their stories, that she very much lived in the present with her great wisdom and perspective, her calm, steadying force. She never took for granted everything she had. Truly content with her life, never wanting for more, proud especially of her family. Remarking even very recently, as she beamed to Julius, we raised 4 pretty great kids, didn't we? Not bad for someone who came from the humblest of beginnings. The Slotnikoff family lived on Pritchard on the 2nd floor above a store. She and her sister shared a bed. She went to Parrott School and the Folkschule and William White and St. John's Tech. And then, as you'll hear about, she met Julius Morry at a dance. Not bad. And not bad at all for a lady who said her calling in life was to be a mother. To put down roots as she has, roots that now extend deep in Winnipeg, but also all across the continent. One of the pieces of wisdom that they try and teach you when you become a rabbi or when you read the books is that death will come for everybody, and the only way you can possibly try to rob death of the ultimate victory is by living a life so that when it does come, it takes you from a corner of the world that you made better. And Sippy certainly did that. May her memory be a blessing, and may she rest in peace. And invite, on behalf of the grandchildren, Josh and Samantha.
Hello, everyone. So Samantha and I will speak on behalf of Bobby's grandchildren. So me, Samantha, Ben, Matthew, and Joel Morry. And I found what's interesting about Bobby is that in speaking to her over these last few weeks, she told us that she was surprised to hear how important a person she was to so many people. And that was a consistent theme in talking to her, was that she didn't see herself as a person who could draw this many people to her funeral, or who we all care about so much. So my sister and I, on behalf of all of us, are really here to correct that, because I think what we want to establish is that not only was she important, but she was the most important. So last night, when we were on the plane back, I connected with our cousins, and the consistent theme that ran through it was, as Matthew says, that Bobby was both a calming force in the family, but also the glue that held the family together. So she mediated disputes, which, as you can imagine, in a Jewish family there were many. She was the holder of the institutional knowledge and wisdom of this family that we could all draw on when making decisions. We used to say that even though it didn't feel like she was old because she was so current, she would also tell crazy stories with Zadie that she remembers when they brought pizza to Winnipeg. Like, she remembers when pizza was invented. So she had the ability to be a person of 2024, but also a person with institutional knowledge that stretched back generations. My cousins wanted to point out that she organized the best sleepovers, which was I can confirm that that is correct. And one of the reasons why this process, among many other reasons, has been so difficult is because the person who we'd want to advise us the most right now is the person who is also hurting the most from it. And so I think it's weird to talk about a person who's 87 years old as having, unfinished business, right? Like, if you talk to a lot of people, they'll say, oh, she was 87 years, she was 87 years old, it was a full life. But I actually think that there was so much that both she had done, as Matthew talked about. She came from extremely humble beginning, sleeping in a bed with my Auntie Helen, but so much that she still had left to do. And you can see how much there was for her left to do, because she, up until the last minute, she was watching my wedding on Saturday, even when she was very, very sick. And so, I know, and then we'll transition to my sister here, I know that like her mother, who was a great grandmother to me, she would have been a very good talk amongst yourselves. I'm verklempt. She would have been a great grandmother as well.
Wow. Why would you say this?
Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Oh, ow. Don't laugh, Sadie. My generation grew up hearing stories about my grandmother's mother, Bobby Sally, which you heard about today. I'm gonna get this going 1 second. And we would hear stories about Bobby Sally's immense patience and her kindness and her love for her family. And my grandmother embodied those virtues and more. And so when me, Josh, Ben, Matthew, and Joel want everyone to know is that we'll ensure the next generation of Morrys not only knows about our grandmother, but knows how much we love her. And I speak in the present tense because that love won't go away. Instead, it will be funneled into the stories that we tell of her and the traditions that we keep and carry on and the values that she instilled in us that we'll instill in the next generation. And we love her very much, and she will be deeply missed.
Yeah, so, okay, back. That was, so we would just like to, once again, celebrate not only an important person, but the most important person. And so thank you all for coming for her.
I was actually doing not too badly till then. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to give these remarks, at least not for a long time. Just last week, as we know, the only speech I was preparing was for Josh and Sam's wedding. We were so hopeful we could have more time with Mom. She wanted so badly to walk down the aisle with her cherished grandson and his Bashert. Of course, Dad couldn't leave her side for even one day. We're so grateful Mom was able to watch the wedding on a live stream. She told us the next day how happy she was for Josh and Sam. Mom was proud of the family that she almost single-handedly raised. Sorry, Dad. In fact, Dad once said that the deal they made, I think you'll remember this, was they're yours, CP, until they're 10. But 10 years became 20 because when I turned 10, Mom had Karen, and those 20 years turned into a lifetime because Mom never really stopped being a mom, especially for her girls. When they moved, she was up every night on the phone with them, and then when technology evolved, she was on Skype or FaceTime. In fact, thank God for the evolution of technology. It saved Dad a fortune. I remember when we were kids, if someone called long distance, some of you might be old enough to remember this, and we accepted the charges, Dad would stand over us with a stopwatch. At $1 a minute, or whatever it was, he probably had a point. If the technology had stood still in 1970 and inflation taken its toll, just one long-distance call with Karen or Marla in 2024, Dad would have cost you over $1,000. Mind you, for Mom and Karen or Mom and Marla, it would have been worth every penny. Those calls were therapy for the mind and soul, and while they can never be fully replaced, those calls with Mom have given the girls a lifetime of love and wisdom. Mom was their champion, their cheerleader, and their confidant. She showed us the true meaning of humility, they told me. She didn't want anyone, least of all her children, to make a fuss over her, even when she needed them the most. She learned to accept that love and support, especially from Karen, after her cruel illness took hold. Her relationship with her boys was different, but just as important in their development. Mom, like Sarah, knew the way to Jeff is through his stomach. I remember well her homemade peanut butter cookies. Mind you, for me, they were mostly a memory because Jeff would finish off 3/4 of the pan before I opened the fridge. In later years, Jeff came for lunch at least once a week. He filled his stomach, but just like the girls, he also got his fill of love and wisdom. Jeff defines that wisdom as acceptance, embracing imperfections, he said, with an open heart. She instilled in me the value of grace under pressure, a true role model for how to treat others. My best memories of Mom are bookended. The early years when Mom let me take the girls out for a couple of hours before I was of legal babysitting age. I remember taking Karen to the shopping center, I think it was called Gamble's back then, when she was 9 months old, and letting her crawl on mattresses that were stacked 5 feet high. That scared me straight when I realized she was faster than I was and nearly fell off. I also remember the time Mom and Dad spent with Hope and me over dinner. Many dinners. There's nothing like hearing your parents talk about your kids in ways that they never spoke about you. We all get better with age, and Mom certainly did. It turns out that I needed a parent who allowed me to aim high and risk failure, and Mom and Dad gave me the secure home life I needed. Mom was also a great mother-in-law. She cut her teeth with Hope, her first daughter-in-law. She was a big help with the kids, and at least in my imagination, she shook her head knowingly when Hope told stories about me. Mom doubled down with Sarah, who had 3 rambunctious but absolutely loving boys to contend with. Mom was a loving mother-in-law, more supportive than the meddlesome mother-in-law of sitcoms and Jewish legend. Karen's partner Mark told Mom when he came into town after her diagnosis that he would be proposing to Karen. She made him promise to keep his promise. She certainly had a great role model, as you've heard, in her mother, Bobby Sally. Mom was raised by a force of nature. In Mom's words, and I quote, and I watched some video yesterday just to confirm this, this is Mom's words, "My mother was a vivacious person, a great communicator. She was very outgoing, a great personality. Everyone liked her." I can second that. Bobby Sally lived on in Mom and her sister Helen, Hinda, as she called her. Her father, Zedek Sam, was a moral powerhouse. He enlisted in World War II when he was 31 years old, and, it was a true story, we have a picture of it, challenged a much younger soldier to a boxing match when the younger man called him a dirty Jew. He won the match, and the anti-Semite was forced to apologize in front of the whole base. I certainly did not take after him in that regard. This was part of Mom's heritage and the one she passed on to us. Her grandchildren were her little dividends. All 5 kids, as you've heard, loved spending time with Bobby, in part because she was their best audience. Ben, Matthew, and Joel had many sleepovers, as you've heard, at 30 Hill House. I watched the video I told you about, a video of Mom and Dad seeing their grandson Josh for the first time. I should just play that video to let you know where her North Star in life was. Samantha, is the only granddaughter, had a secret bond with Bobby. She loved getting Bobby to talk, as she put it. At the end of the day, it was girl talk more than a grandparent and grandchild. Mom loved spending time with Steve, and Steve was visiting Mom and Dad on his own before he moved to Toronto. Now, Mom signed off on Sam Holloway too many years ago to count. She knew that Sam and Josh would live happily ever after. I have to end by telling you a fairy tale of 2 people who met almost 7 decades ago. Dad was full of big ideas. He was like a young Duddy Kravitz. It was 1954, and he had just returned from Vancouver, where he was filming weddings and bat mitzvahs. Bar mitzvahs. Probably not many bat mitzvahs in 1954. He and his friends were finding it hard meeting Jewish girls. So he went to the head of the YMHA on Hargrave Street, and proposed a monthly dance where he would look after everything. 2 months later, he was attracting, this is the truth, 250 to 300 young Jewish people a month to the dance. A lot of local marriages came out of those Y dances, including, it turns out, his own. He went to one fateful dance with his date, Sally. Sally introduced him to her best friend, Shirley Slotnikoff, and the rest is history. Dad said, and I quote, "I remember exactly what she was wearing, the color of her skirt and hair." A couple of weeks later, he asked her to go steady, and she said no. So instead, he asked her out every single week after week, and she always said yes. Afraid to ask for her hand in marriage, well, who wouldn't be after what she said when he asked her to go steady? One day he just said, when we're married, held his breath, and when Mom didn't protest, he bought a ring and booked the Shaarey Zedek synagogue. And that brings us here today. Dad, Mom lives on in you, in us, in our kids, and soon in theirs. We will get through this together as Mom would have wanted us to, as a family, as her family.
Howard, thank you so much for that beautiful eulogy. Josh, Samantha, thank you so much for your words of tribute as well. Now chant the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional memorial prayer in honor of Shirley Morry. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromi, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim Kizoar Rakia Mazirim Enishmat Tziv Zipa bat Shmuel HaKohen v'Cherna she'alcha le'olama Bigan Eidente Menuchatan Abal Harachamim Hasti Rea Besei Tegen Afecha Leolamim Utzror Vitzror Achaim Enishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach v'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Shirley Morry, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. There will be a meal. There will be a meal of consolation after the service concludes. It can take as much time, of course, here at the cemetery, but then there will be a meal of consolation at the Asper campus in the foyer of the Bernie Theater. So you can head there after the service for the meal of consolation, and then there will be an evening of Shiva tonight at Howard and Hope's, 740 Park Boulevard South, between 7 and 9. That's this evening for the Shiva for visits. In a moment we will recite the Mourner's Kaddish, and then we will conclude our service with the familiar ritual of shoveling earth into the grave. The family will lead us, but everyone who is here is invited to participate. It's a mitzvah. It's a selfless act we do without any hope of any reward. It taps into something we mentioned in the introduction, that the ultimate form of respect in Jewish tradition is to join a funeral procession, accompany a loved one to her final resting place, and then participate together in burying her with our own hands. They say kind, knowing hands, hands that held their hands. There are different customs. Most people pour 3 shovelfuls of earth, but some people use the front of the shovel and some people use the back of the shovel. Some people, when they're done, as if they don't want to pass on the shovel, will deliberately put it back in the earth. Some people pass it to the next person. I've seen it all, and so the custom with which you are familiar, or the explanation that resonates with you, is I always encourage people to embrace, to infuse meaning into all the rituals that we go through, particularly this one that is so familiar and so communal in our tradition. So again, the family will lead us, and then everyone can participate. There are shovels on both sides. On a day where it rains, we always tell people to just be careful around the gravesite. It's wet and muddy and slick, and just be careful. If you don't want to use one of the big shovels, but you still want to participate, over here by this headstone, there is a pail with a small shovel inside and sand and dirt, and you can use that and perform the mitzvah as well. Earlier in the service, we mentioned the words of Job that we alluded to, and we say them again here in conclusion. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God gives, God takes, blessed be the name of God. May Shirley Morry's memory be a blessing as we mark that her essence will never leave our hearts and our souls. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish. Yid Gadal, V'Yid Gadash, Shemei Rabah. Ve'alma divrach hirutei, V'yamlich malchutei, V'chayechon, Uvyomechon, Uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv, V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabah Mevorach Le'olam Ulamei Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yithalal Shmei Dekudsha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabah min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all of humanity. As again we say, amen. And to the family we say, Hamakom yinachem etchem, b'toch she'ar avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort and console you among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning in our community. Invite the family to come forward and lead us, and thank you again to everyone for being here today.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
This is my grandson, Jonah.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You know Josh, right?
It's been a bit, yes. Yeah. You were in Samantha? Yeah, Samantha. Yeah.
You're sad too. It's all
I
I know.
Yeah, no, we really were good. But when you were there, it's good, right?
Yeah.
You're Shirley Bob.
So Shirley said, maybe we're going up to the
There's some
like
good,
I could see.
we got a picture of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank